Hello, Wobbly Phil here. After last week's tour around the Norton Twisties, I thought it would only be polite to follow it up with a bit of BSA banter. Like Norton, BSA is yet another Indian-owned jewel in the British biking crown. What with those two, along with Royal Enfield and Jaguar, the subcontinent is now a global centre for revitalising the grand old names we used to see trundling around the UK's roads in our youth. What next? The Ambassador?
I've got an Austin Ambassador, why reg, my Austin Ambassador, why reg, it's a car that I repeat.
So does the revival of the BSA Bantam represent a smart move by BSA? Or does the reminder of an underpowered old two-stroke that got our forefathers to and from factory for a 12-hour shift bashing widgets rather take the shine off it? First off, I'm assuming all you three fillers don't come to this channel for hype around the latest press launch of the latest bike. There are plenty of other places you can go for that. Most of the time I just witter on about slightly obscure machines from 50 or 60 years ago. So look away now if you're expecting a schmaltzy review from a wined and dined YouTuber with BSA's press office in their WhatsApp chat group. Look away too if you have any kind of allergy to acerbic cynicism. The first thing to note is that there's a trend towards smaller engined bikes that seems to have gone global. Triumph launched its Speed 400 last year. Norton has been talking about a range of sub-500cc machines, and even the mighty Bar and Shield have a 440 in their lineup these days, aimed, yes, you've guessed it, at the Indian market.
Heart on fire, I desire thunder riding.
With the largest population in the world and a burgeoning middle class, India is in the rider's seat.
The Harley-Davidson X440. Find your freedom.
There's always been a demand for mid-range capacity bikes. For example, you could argue that the success of Honda's CB350 in the 1960s was where it all began. But before that, long before that, we had the BSA Bantam. In fact, it was the second spot of global bother that brought the Bantam to British shores. It was based on the DKW RT125, an innovative little two-stroke that was developed by the German company in the 1930s. And after the altercations were over, the Brits, the Americans, and even the Soviets grabbed themselves a slice of that two-stroke pie as part of the victor's spoils. The Soviets even dolloped a few spoonfuls of DKW personnel on top for good measure, hence BSA producing the 125 Bantam D1 in 1948, with the shift to change its 3 gears swapped to the right and all measurements changed from metric to inches to cater for British sensibilities. The D1 pumped out a smashing 4.5 horsepower. Over the next 23 years, 150cc and 175cc variants were also made, taking the number of GGs all the way up to a neck-snapping 12.6. These little bikes proved very popular and helped get the workers on the move to their post-war civvy jobs in industry, welding up fire engines or whatever. That's what my granddad used to do. Well, that's what he said he did, but mostly he was down the pub downing pints of Guinness, from what I could make out. By the time the 1970s came around, up to 500,000 Bantams had been sold, according to some sources, at which point production ceased due to BSA's well-documented financial issues at the time. A pity because redesign had been on the drawing board, which would have given the little two-stroke updates such as Autolube. There were still plenty of second-hand Bantams knocking around in the mid-1970s to keep us learners happy, restricted as we were to a maximum of 250 cubes on L plates. One of my chums, surprisingly not called Phil, used to ride his everywhere. To me at least, it always seemed rather old-fashioned, as well it might with its roots in the 1930s, but it was a reliable little bugger and easy to work on. Oh well, as they say, nostalgia ain't what it used to be, which brings me back to the launch by new BSA a week or so ago of the new Bantam.
Not all numbers are born for the balance sheet.
The rump of BSA was bought out by the massive multinational Mahindra Group for 3.4 million notes in 2016 and launched its new 650cc water-cooled single-cylinder Gold Star in 2023. It's designed in Birmingham, made in India, tribute to the famous Gold Star of the 1930s, 40s, 50s and 60s. Despite all the fanfares, I'm not sure this new Gold Star has been exactly embraced by the buying public here in the UK. It's not what you would call a mile muncher, with its 45 ponies being a bit on the weedy side for modern motorway work. I have no idea what healthy sales would be in today's climate, but in the UK at least about 1,200 have made it out of the showroom doors by the end of last year. eBay is awash with adverts for them, either from owners trying to offload them or dealers trying to shift them from the showrooms. My feeling is that the boomer bike boom is over. Old gits like me aren't looking for another retro bike to soothe their midlife crisis. Our midlife crisis is over, and we're now careering towards our end-life crisis. And saving up for a trip to Dignitas or wondering how much it costs to live in a care home. Which is why it is so damn peculiar that BSA have chosen to name their new mid-range bike the Bantam. I doubt if anyone under 50 has even heard of a Bantam, unless of course it's not targeted at us wrinkly riders. It's just a name that new BSA owns the rights to. But then why give it retro styling and trumpet about reviving the revolutionary spirit of the 1948 Bantam D1? Really, is that how we all felt about the Bantam back then? That it was revolutionary? It's certainly a much more modern proposition with its 350 single-cylinder liquid-cooled engine pumping out 29 horses, and at $3,500 it ain't gonna make much of a dent in your pocket. In fact, you could splash out on one and still have enough left over out of 10 large to drool into your nursing home soup for an additional month or so. And being much lighter than a big bike, about 185 kilos or 400 pounds, you could almost certainly drop it on your foot, as you inevitably will at my age, and not have to sit in A&E for 15 hours waiting to be seen by a junior doctor. I don't know, maybe I'm old and confused. Perhaps it's time to put my dentures in a glass and shut up. I'll leave the last word to my mate who isn't called Phil, the last person I saw riding a Bantam in 1970-something. Apparently, it struggled to get up some steep hills even in first gear. The vibration was quite bad, but he absolutely loved it and still considers himself a Bantam man. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, then please consider liking, subscribing, commenting and sharing to let YouTube know we're doing something right here at 3 Phils. Thank you.